It is truly unfortunate that on any given day, any of our friends, siblings, and children can go to school and come back injured or not at all. The world we live in is dangerous, and not just because of natural factors, but because of humans as well. What was once a bright and enriching educational space has, in recent times, become a place of heartache, sorrow, and loss. If we take a look at this CNN article of the timeline of high school violence in the US, we can see just how terrible of a state we've been in for the past decade. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, for an example, was an incredibly traumatic event that happened not even 5 blocks away from my house in Florida. And this doesn't only happen at the high school level either. School violence happens all across the educational spectrum. And although shootings lead to the most grave tragedies, it's also important to note that bullying of any degree is an act of school violence that should not be tolerated. And so, we're students ourselves, and the fact that students can be at risk of injury just by attending school means that there's something fundamentally wrong with the way things are today. So, with the safety of the next generation at stake as well, it's only right that we take action in order to prevent school violence by minimizing, if not abolishing it. My name is Sterling Miller, and today I'm going to be talking about why we need to mitigate school violence, how to solve and reduce the possibility of it at the source, and how the implementation of my plan would look in the future. And so, what are the biggest effects that school violence creates? Well, first of all, it creates the prioritization of safety over academics. Because these violent incidents occur, school is no longer seen as a place to foster education and knowledge, but instead is seen as a dangerous trap, where the wrong day can change a student's life forever. See, this is wrong, right? Students should be able to focus on education instead of worrying about whether or not their lives are in danger. In an article posted in 2018 by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, they noted that nationwide, about 7% of students had not gone to school at least one day in the 30 days before the survey because they felt that they would be unsafe at school or going to or from school. And so as we can see, students are opting to not attend school at all in order to feel safe, which halts the educational process as a whole. And so, furthermore, if not for the academic ideals of these students, we need to be protecting these students as these students themselves. The future generation is comprised of people that will take the mantle of innovation and change from us once we're done. And so it is important that we protect them in any way possible. As the Prime Minister of Australia, John Howard, once said, the greatest civil right we have is the right to stay alive. And so we need to grant the future generation their birthright and stop this violence as soon as possible. Every individual has a chance to affect the world, and then being stripped of this ability cannot persist any longer. And so, we know the things that need to change. But what can we do as a nation? Well, in this discussion, most people subscribe to the idea that guns and weapons are what start the problem. And although guns and weapons should be restricted, let me offer a different perspective. If dangerous weapons are the tools that sow the seed of fear, then the assailants themselves are the farmers that plant and harvest this. And so, I propose that schools implement at least one mandatory psychological counselor, therapist, and/or specialist on campus at all times. And in this way, they can relieve and soothe the minds of those with mental illnesses and pent-up aggression. See, by having a safe space for people to get away from the rigors of academics and the stresses of work and school and home life, and by having someone for students to talk to about their social, emotional, and psychological issues, we can promote kindness, empathy, and compassion in the place that needs it the most, the school. In a Psychology Today article, Mary Wallace notes that a step schools can take to end school violence is to have mental health professionals on their staff. She continues to say that a trained counselor, social worker, or psychologist understands children and is skilled in intervening in their problems. They can help children before it's too late, and that this is a necessity, not a luxury. Psychological professionals are trained to handle the emotional and social problems that students may have, as well as counsel them in order to help them de-stress and diffuse the tension and aggression that they might be feeling before it leaks out and affects other students harmfully. So, in this way, we're essentially stopping the problem at the source, preventing students from harming each other, while also fixing the warped psychological mindsets that some may have. However, I don't think that this is all it will take to stop school violence. Schools should also concentrate on the whole child, instead of just high grades and statistics. Schools need to adjust their missions in order from a purely academic one to a holistic one, and attend to the emotional and social needs that students have. And schools can do this by implementing emotional well-being and expression programs, and by teaching skills of conflict solution. In this way, we can generate not only good students, but healthy, happy citizens and individuals. Personally, I know that at my high school, American Heritage, there was a high priority on achieving and advertising high grades, SAT scores, and college acceptances. In fact, these achievements would even be posted on a neon sign in front of the school. And for those students that impressed the school, their name and their achievement would be placed on that sign. And so these students were placed on a pedestal. But while these students were cherished, others felt like they were left in the dust, which creates this air of inadequacy and tension among the general populace, which is not good for the cause. I only wish that American Heritage had focused on the whole student and implemented safe spaces with psychological professionals. Unfortunately, however, American Heritage decided to go through the route of stricter regulation in response to the Marjory Stoneman Douglas incident. They implemented heavy duties and restricted measures. Thomas Windish, a current American Heritage student and a personal friend of mine, noted that American Heritage put up barbed wire, makes us wear clear backpacks, and has a screen through metal detectors now. It feels a lot like how jail would feel. And it doesn't make me feel safe or free, it just makes me feel strictly regulated. And so this is proof that the route of stricter regulation might not yield the desired results that we want. Instead, we need to promote a healthy and happy learning environment for students. And that's why I'm suggesting that the implementation of psychological professionals and the changing of school environments and missions can lead us towards that goal. And so we've seen what stricter regulation can look like in schools. But what would my plan look like? Well, students, troubled and not, can both reap the benefits of having psychological professionals on campus. Even here at Vanderbilt, we have places such as the Student Center of Wellbeing, where I go as a perfectly healthy student for meditation and mindfulness exercises. See, opportunities like these lead students closer to better mental health, mindfulness, and compassion, while also teaching us to balance schoolwork. Mary Wallace, as previously mentioned, noted that if children feel cared for and valued, they will build a positive attachment to the school and feel less agitated and angry. The old model of education, of punishment and reward, needs to be replaced by one of positive communication and emotional support. If these programs are implemented, we will see safer schools. It's vitally important to have emotional outlets, and it's vitally important to have someone to guide the future generation towards a healthier lifestyle. Programs like these can teach students positive values that they'll take with them to society as they develop. And so in this way, by promoting a safer school space, we're promoting a safer society. We need to take the initiative to create a more mindful generation, because the benefits of this will last for generations to come. And so we know what we can do as a nation, but what can you do as individuals to ensure that this change happens? Well, contact your local and state legislators to change the state-based regulations that schools have to abide by. See, some schools don't have the proper funding to implement these programs, as I mentioned earlier. But with your voice, we can encourage legislators to reallocate funds to help less fortunate schools make room for these programs, while maintaining programs such as fine arts and extracurriculars, which are seemingly going extinct. And trust me, if there's skepticism, I totally understand. I know that states need this money in order to prosper in other ways. But sacrifices need to be made. As Mary Wallace said, this is a necessity, not a luxury. We can't make strides towards innovation and change without taking risks. And so, historically, humans have always been a species that have overcome obstacles and roadblocks on our path to greatness. And so, With these programs, we can allow students to prioritize education over worry while protecting them in the first place, allowing them to contribute to problems that we face today and craft solutions that we never could have imagined in the first place. And the only way this is possible is with you, the people. Exercise your power as U.S. citizens and let legislators know the changes that need to be made to the education system in this country. It's your voice that can help these students escape the fear of their lives being in danger. And nobody said it would be easy, but we all know that it's necessary.